Hello, Maddie here. I need y'all to stop what you're doing and listen up because this is a topic I am super passionate about and I have lots and lots of feelings on. Today, we're talking about best and worst literary couples. I have strong feelings about this, honestly, mainly because of the worst couples, because there are so many couples that people use as like these literary benchmarks for like best couples, and it makes me so annoyed because they're not good. They are not good benchmarks. They are not how you should act in relationships. And it makes me super annoyed because people use them and it makes me mad. So let's talk about it. First, we got Romeo and Juliet. Anybody want to guess why we don't like Romeo and Juliet? I can think of three main reasons. Number one, they're super young. She's 13. I think he's more like 15, maybe 17. Still way too young. I think back and if I had married the person that I thought I was going to marry at 18, life might have been fine, but it probably wouldn't be nearly as good as it is because I found a man that I absolutely love when my brain was fully formed. That's problem number one. Problem number two, their families are like mortal enemies. I could never marry somebody that my family didn't love. I'll say especially my mom, she has like this crazy intuition and she just knows. When my siblings have gotten with the person that they ended up marrying, she's like, yeah, I just knew like I met them or saw them together and I was like, oh yeah, obviously they're going to end up married. And it's like, how do you know? How can you tell? And so if my mother did not like the man I was with, there is no way I would have stayed with them. Maybe I would have been stubborn and dated them for a little bit, but I never, ever would have married them. I couldn't do that. And third, the one we all know, they literally get themselves killed. That's not even the right word. They kill themselves. One of them pretends to die so she can run off with him. He sees her. He kills himself. She wakes up because she wasn't actually dead, sees that he's dead, and kills herself because they're teenagers and their brains are not fully formed yet. There you go. 3 great reasons as to why we should stop using Romeo and Juliet as a great literary romantic couple. Please stop. Please stop. They're terrible. Great. I'm so glad we're all on the same page. Book couple number 2, Kathy and Heathcliff from Wuthering Heights. I wanted to read this book for a really long time because it is a classic and I'd heard so much about it. And one of my things is I've probably read half, maybe 2/3 of like classic books out there. I've definitely not read all of them. There are definitely books I haven't read, maybe never read. But I low-key pride myself on reading a lot of classics because they're classics for a reason and they should be part of my repertoire. And I ended up reading Wuthering Heights in college as part of a Victorian literature English class. Y'all, I'm low-key glad it was for a class because I'm not 100% sure I would have finished it if it hadn't been. It is so terrible. It is a terrible book for a myriad of reasons. Focusing in on the main couple because that's what we're talking about. Kathy and Heathcliff, there's this whole thing about them like loving each other and them kind of being like destined for each other, but they don't end up together. They end up with other people because their version of loving each other is being literally hateful and spiteful towards each other and calling it love. Ending up with another person to make the other person jealous and like to make them upset because they love them. And even after marriage, just torturing each other. They stay in each other's orbit because they love each other, but all they do is literally everything they do, I would say, is something you would do to somebody that you hate. And that's so confusing to me as to why we're using them as this like great love example when they are nothing of the sort. And it was so confusing to me because I went into this book being like, not expecting something like Jane Austen because it is a later time period than Regency. But my gosh, I was not expecting it to be that dark, that depressing, and that just like, I don't want to say evil because that just seems like kind of terrible, but it is a book full of hate that is disguised as love. And it's terrible. If they had lived in the real world, not in the world, if they had lived in the modern world and we saw this relationship, we would call it manipulative. We would call it toxic. We would call it abusive. We would never hold it up as this example of great love. Never, ever would we do that. And I'm so tired of it. We are putting Kathy and Heathcliff on the shelf and we are no longer using them as examples of great love. There is one singular good thing from this book. There is an amazing quote and it annoys me that it's from this book, but I love it, so I'm gonna tell you what it is. It annoys me that it's from this book. So it's Kathy talking. It would degrade me to marry Heathcliff now, so he shall never know how I love him, and that not because he's handsome, Nellie, but because he's more myself than I am. Whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same. Specifically that last sentence. Whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same. And I think that is beautiful, and I love that quote. and I have it on a postcard somewhere that I had on a wall when I wrote this blog, but I don't know where it is now. But I had it and I just pretended it was not from that book, because in my mind, when I found that quote, I was like, there's no way it's from that book. Like, that's just not possible. This book is terrible. There's no way such a wonderful, beautiful quote is from such a terrible book. But no, it is. You know, you only can do so much in the world. Now that we're all fired up about terrible books, terrible couples, let us talk about the best books and the best couples. I'm going to give a handful of examples. We're going to give a popular example, one of my personal favorite examples, and then a modern contemporary example of what I think are good, healthy relationships. Starting off with Pride and Prejudice, because there are so many collections of Jane Austen's works. I found the covers I liked and I bought all of her books in those. And so they're not all this same pattern, but there are similar art patterns they are all the same height, same font, and this is from that collection. Pride and Prejudice has Elizabeth Bennet and Darcy. Fitzwilliam Darcy, but he's just Darcy, and she's just Lizzie. They're a wonderful couple for a myriad of reasons. And I think this will actually go for all three of the examples. Part of why they are such good couples is that they are flawed people that come together in a very wonderful, beautiful way. They know their faults, they know their shortcomings, but they also help one another and help fill in those weaknesses. One of the great things about a really genuinely good couple is that they help each other's weaknesses. They don't necessarily turn your greatest weakness into your greatest strength, but they're going to help fill in those gaps and help round you out as a person and know, like, you're not perfect, I'm not perfect, but I can help you in those areas. And that's what they do. This book is Pride and Prejudice. It's about Lizzie's prejudice against, I would say, really rich, snobby people, and Darcy's pride about being a rich, snobby person. It is about how they set these things aside for her to see him for who he really is, and for him to see her for who she really is, and for them to fall in love with each other. And that's exactly what they do. She gets past her prejudice, he gets past his pride, and they're able to love each other. She gets past the fact that he is rich and has a wonderful home, and the fact that she feels judged and belittled by maybe some of the people around him, and even him at some points. And he's able to get past his pride of her having a little bit of a wacky family, her not being from a super wealthy family, and him being able to get past that and see her for who she really is, and she can see him for who he really is. And that's really beautiful and wonderful. And it is a reason why, in my mind, I would say, in terms of like greatest classic couples, Lizzie and Darcy are up there top tier. I don't know if I've actually done any blogs or videos on Pride and Prejudice adaptations. No, I know I have. I at least made a blog. If I have, I will link them. But there are loads and loads of good book adaptations, but especially movie adaptations that are like amazing and wonderful. And if I have those, I'll link them below. Before I segue into my next couple, I have to mention, I didn't mention this on my blog, but I have to mention it here. One of my other favorite books, it's called The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. It is wonderful for a myriad of reasons. The singular thing I want to mention is it is about the Isle of Guernsey that was occupied during World War II, and they were cut off from the rest of the world. And one of the characters falls in love with Wuthering Heights and Cathy and Heathcliff, and she holds them up as this great literary couple because they had no access to they had very little access to books. So she did not have a variety of books to choose from. And then after the occupation, she reads Pride and Prejudice, and she barges into the main character's room, and she's like, why did nobody tell me that a couple like this existed? I've been sitting here dreaming about Cathy and Heathcliff, who are a terrible couple, when people like Lizzie and Darcy existed. Like, what's going on? And then just like storms out of the room. So she barges in, has her little spiel, and leaves. And it's one of the greatest scenes. It has nothing to do with anything else going on in the book, but it's one of my all-time favorite scenes from that book because it's a beautiful chef's kiss and exactly it. We are given these examples of terrible literary couples told they're amazing, and then we find actually good literary couples, and we're like, why are you telling me that they're great when they're terrible and this couple is awesome? Anyways, I had to mention it because I think it's hilarious and fantastic and just perfectly sums up the difference between good and bad literary couples. Next, Burin/Naisir and Prince Muhammad from Seven Daughters and Seven Sons. This is another one of my all-time favorite books. I don't think I haven't done a video on this book, but it does have a blog. I've kind of been saving it for a rainy day because I love this book so much. I'm saving it for when it's like, I don't have the energy to talk about a book, but I know I love this book so much and I've read it so many times that it'd be super easy to make a video of. So I'm kind of saving it for that day, but it's included in this blog because as one of my favorite couples, because it is set in the 1100s, Baghdad is where this book is set. And Burin dresses up like a man, Naisir, to help provide for her family of all sisters that her dad can't provide for. And Muhammad falls in love with her because she's more than this pretty thing to look at. And he gets very confused because he's like low-key attracted to her and likes her, but he's like, she's a man and I'm not interested in that. And I don't know what's going on. And you can have your own thoughts on that, but that's not where we're going. But it's that what's so great about them as a couple is that when he finds out she's a woman, he's like, oh my gosh, this woman that is all these things that are not in the social norms of things you'd want in a woman for this time period. She is all of these things. You know, she has a mind for business and trade. She can do all these athletic things women can't typically do. She can play chess. Like, she's mentally very agile and just smart and competent and can push back at me when I need pushback. And when he finds out that he is a she, he's like, I must have this woman. And even though he is a prince, he goes to the ends of the earth to find her because she is so valuable to him and so wonderful to him that he will not settle for anything less than this specimen that he knows exists. He knows that there is this woman that can go toe to toe with him, that can spur him on to be great and good and thoughtful and loving. And he's like, that's what we're going for. I'm not settling for anything less. And so that's why I like using them as a great literary couple, because no matter what society's telling you, these are the things you should be looking for in a significant other. The things you should be looking for in a significant other are going to be different person to person. Yes, in general, we want kind, loving, caring, compassionate people. But what I need in a partner is going to be different from even my sisters, from my friends. We needed a other half that complemented us. Like Lizzie and Darcy, we need someone that takes our weaknesses and helps fill in those gaps, helps round us out as a person, helps take those things that kind of make us hard to deal with and smooth those edges out and help us genuinely be the best version of ourselves. They're not going to necessarily complete you, but they're going to help you grow. Like, it's different. Like, it's not like I'm this perfect half of a human and I need another perfect half of a human. It's like, no, I'm this ever growing, learning, changing person. And I need someone that can do those things, but help me learn and change and grow in the ways that I really need. And that's what I feel like this couple does for each other, because he shows her that there are men like this that care about these things, and she shows him that there are women that can be these things that he never thought was possible in a partner. So, great book. We love it. We're here for it. You'll get a full video one day. And finally, for our contemporary couple, I want to talk about Percy and Annabeth from Percy Jackson and the Olympians and Heroes of Olympus. We have all 10 books. We're not going to go grab all 10 books. So I just grabbed the first book, The Lightning Thief. The show is now out on Disney. I think they've got season 1 is definitely out. I don't know if they're still working on season 2 or if season 2 has been released yet. I think they're just working on it. It might have a release date, but it's not there yet. And book starts when they're 12. The first series ends when they're 16. The second series ends when they're like 18, 21, something like that. And they're a great contemporary couple because it's set modern times-ish. They're obviously demigods, like that's a whole thing. But what I love about this is we get kind of like the best friends, almost childhood lovers, because obviously they meet when they're 12, so they're still kids. They don't get together when they're 12. They don't even like each other till they're like 15 and get together when they're 16, something like that, which I would say is a very normal timeline for young people. But what's so great about them is, like my other two great couples, is that they help each other be better people. They think different. They act different. They are their own individuals. But when they come together, they make each other better. They build one another up. They help each other through difficult circumstances. They are that shoulder to lean on, that person to boost you up when things are hard. But they're also there to challenge your thinking. Say, hey, you kind of did something stupid there. Let's maybe not do that again. Here's how to think about things differently. Here's how to approach things differently. Here's how to do things differently than you've done them in the past when it didn't work out for you, when it wasn't good. And you get to see them do that from childhood, from 12 years old, getting to know each other and like low-key hating each other at the beginning, especially Annabeth. She's super jaded and she does not like him at first. And Percy's just a little boy trying to be like, what's going on? I don't understand women. And you're like, that's fair. You're only 12 and girls are confusing. And he, I'm pretty sure, makes comments like that multiple times. Like, I don't get girls. I don't get girls at all, which is totally fair. We're confusing. We're a little bit of an enigma. But then you find the one that you love and you get to know that girl specifically. And that's what Percy does, is he finds the girl for him and he learns her completely. Absolutely completely. And Percabeth is just, they're adorable and they're wonderful. And watching them grow is so wonderful because, like I said, there is nothing romantic for almost the entire first series. Like, seriously, basically the entire first series, basically nothing there because they're growing and they're friends. And that's what that grows from this. And that's partially why they're such a good couple, because not everyone's going to meet the person that they are going to be with and they're friends first and then, you know, they're grow and develop and then become a couple. If you're like me, I met Evan. I knew we were going to get married and we got together immediately. But he is my best friend. I wrote this down somewhere recently, but I was like, I love talking to him. I love having conversations with him. I love bouncing ideas off of him. I love being like, okay, here's the thing that happened. I need kind of help talking through it or thinking about it. I like knowing his thoughts on current events or just circumstances or conversations or like, hey, this thing happened. What do you think about that? Like things that happen at work. I'm like, am I reacting to this properly? I love knowing how he thinks. I love knowing what he has to say. I love just talking to him. It's one of my favorite things. And I feel like Percy and Annabeth embody that a lot of I just like talking to you. I just like being near you because you are such a wonderful human being. And I feel like they embody that so well. And they're a more modern contemporary couple that even if you've never read the other ones, you probably know who Percy and Annabeth are if you're a reader at all. If you're not a reader, you should read those books because they're awesome. There are 10 of them. It's 2 series, so you can read the first 5 and stop. But all 10 books are really, really good, so I totally recommend them. All 10 of them. All 10 of them. Super amazing. Highly, highly, highly recommend. So we talked for a long time, but those are worst and best literary couples in my personal opinion. Having read hundreds of books, I feel like I can at least have a pretty good benchmark for good and bad. If you agree, let me know. If you disagree, I definitely want to know. If you have other couples that you think should be included in best category or worst category, also let me know because I'd be very fascinated to know what couples have kind of stuck with you as good and bad. Comment all that below. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. I usually post about a singular video in each week. I don't usually do kind of topics. I do usually singular books. You should go watch past videos. You should be subscribed so you can know about new videos. And I always want to hear your thoughts on anything that I talk about, anything you want me to talk about, and just your thoughts in general. Yeah, all of that. We're fired up now and just high on the we have super strong feelings about this. And I hope you're here for it. So with all of that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope you have a great night, a great week, great weekend, great month, great year. I hope you have all the greats because you're truly worthy and deserving of them. So until next time, adieu.